Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Ball Knowers. I'm Robbie Basil, joined by Luke Dolan and Cameron Woolley. And we are starting today's episode with some developing news from MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh has been fired by the New York Jets. And recently, we just learned that he had to be escorted out of the building.
That was news to me when you told me.
Just happened a couple minutes ago. We'll start it off with you, Cam. What's your initial reaction to the firing of Robert Saleh by the New York Jets?
Personally, I think it's the right move. He's been a terrible coach there. He's not a leader, especially since Aaron Rodgers got brought in. He was not the main guy ever since he was hired there. Honestly, from his first week as a coach, you can tell by looking at him on the sideline, you could tell by his body language, he was not a leader. He was not as persuasive looking and as commanding as he looked in San Francisco. You could tell he has the same look on his face whenever he's on the sideline. And I know there's a lot more to coaching than facial expressions, but I think that showed a lot of how Robert Saleh really operated mentally. He is not a leader. When Rodgers was traded there, he basically became just Tyronn Lue.
That's kind of a light way to put it.
It's accurate.
Darvin
it's accurate.
Ham type of
well, it's accurate. Think about any of LeBron's coaches in the last 10 years. Just think of that.
I mean,
he was a puppet. He was a puppet. Robert Saleh didn't really have much control. He had no command over what that team was doing. You look at all the disasters, although with the Jets, there are many.
Hey, they are the Jets.
Wow.
And with Saleh, this is a roster that looked way too good on paper to be struggling as much as they have. They came in with really high expectations, and Saleh has had way too long of a leash. If you ask me, I think he should have been fired after last year.
I don't know if I would say that, but
kind of harsh.
No, I'm not being harsh, dude.
It's his second season with the team.
He's second.
Wasn't like his second or third?
No,
he hasn't been there that long.
He's been here for a while, dude. I think he got hired.
Yeah, he had to coach Zach Wilson, man.
Yeah, I know he had to coach Zach Wilson, but even with Rodgers, he's losing. He's not looking good. He's faltering behind expectations, and this firing was way overdue. All the guy has done on the Jets is lose. Why are we sticking up and defending a guy who's lost? When you're a head coach, your main objective is to win games and at the very least improve the team. The Jets have at most had like marginal improvements. Sure, the roster has looked better on paper, but they haven't been winning games. They're still the Jets.
They're a better roster, though. They're a better team.
They're a better roster.
Robert Saleh, when he came in,
what did he do with that better roster?
He saved that defense. Him and Jeff Olbrich, when they both came in together, when you saw the numbers in his first two seasons, he saved the defense and got the defense, albeit with some good drafts as well from Joe Douglas, to where they're supposed to be. The offense hasn't worked because they haven't had a competent offensive coordinator or a quarterback for longer than 2 seasons. How do you expect him to function with a good squad when you don't have an offensive coordinator who can play call? If you looked at the 2 seasons with Nathaniel Hackett as head coach, as an offensive coordinator, the numbers are near identical. How do you expect this team to evolve into a contender when the numbers are the same between Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers?
First of all, you bring up his defense and what he's done there, and I'll give you that. The defense, I will give some credit to Saleh there. But when you're hired as a head coach, you're hired to take on a bigger role. We know that he can build a defense. We knew that when he was in San Francisco. That's sort of a big reason why the Jets brought him over. But when you're a head coach, you're supposed to take on a larger role. You're supposed to understand the offense and build that from there. And when you talk about his offensive coordinator and how much Nathaniel Hackett has failed him, who's the guy in charge of keeping the assistant coaches on the roster? Who's in charge of whether they stay or go? Because if Saleh clearly noticed a problem with Hackett, well, with Hackett, it's different because they brought in Rodgers, and because Saleh was spineless, he just bent to his will and bent over and did whatever he wanted to make sure that Rodgers was happy, even though Rodgers treated him like a bug on the side of the road, which sort of speaks more to his lack of leadership skills and the lack of command that he had over that room. And Saleh, he didn't put his foot down at all. When Hackett was clearly incompetent, when he clearly didn't know how to call plays, when he clearly didn't know how to utilize the guys that he had there. And then to your point, there's a ton of talent. There's talent. Joe Douglas has done a solid job, although I think he gets a little too much credit, with the lack of winning games. But when it was clear that Hackett was not the guy for offensive coordinator, why didn't Saleh step in as a leader, as the guy in charge who's supposed to make sure that things are running well? Why didn't he fire him? Why did it take this long? Maybe if he expressed a little bit of command and a little bit of leadership and a willingness to stand up to his quarterback, who, mind you, is 40 years old, coming off a ruptured Achilles and not really playing that well. Might get into that a little bit later, but you have to be the guy in the room. And Robert Saleh was not that guy.
Well, let's be honest. Aaron Rodgers is the actual offensive coordinator on the Jets. Let's be real, right?
Kind of
Yeah,
feels
and he's doing a lousy job if he's the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he is. But also, they're only 2-3, man. I get they're on a skid.
It goes so much deeper.
It's a skid, but like, it's a long. It's a long but not long season. You can turn yourself around if you're at 2-3. I could see it happen. I get why it happened, but I'm just like, and somehow Nathaniel Hackett's still here. I couldn't believe that.
I mean, you really don't have a replacement for Hackett within the organization that you can use. You saw how bad his play calling was with Denver, and you're now seeing more bad play calling with the Jets over the last season in 6 games.
Yeah, and who's the guy in charge of keeping him there?
Joe Douglas, probably. I don't know. Woody Johnson?
No,
I don't know.
Robert Saleh. Well, maybe Robert Saleh should have stepped up, or maybe he did. We don't know what happened behind closed doors yet. Maybe there could be a tell-all book that comes out. There could be some reports. Saleh might just go rogue, go on like Pat McAfee or something, and just throw everybody under the bus, which I would personally find pretty entertaining. But
it is the Jets. It can and will happen.
Like Saleh, he didn't express any leadership. He was not a leader. He was not a strong presence. And you need that to be a good coach.
Are you guys surprised by what Saleh did afterwards? After having to be escorted out of the building by security?
I'm like kind of surprised. Kind of not. I mean, it's
I'm not
It's
either.
the Jets.
I'm not even talking about like that perspective, because they have a very big game coming up on Monday.
Where are they playing?
They're playing against Buffalo on Monday Night Football, and they sacked the coach after losing in London. Which, by the way, London is not the Jets' best friend. At the end of the day, I don't know if the Jets did this right.
I don't know if they did it right either.
Because you have a bye later. Yes, you can make the argument that a change needed to happen, But Woody Johnson, in his entire tenure as owner, never fired a coach mid-season. Why now? I mean, I get you believe your squad's a contender. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you suffered an unlucky loss against Denver. You came from behind and almost came back against Minnesota.
Who are 5-0 right away?
Who are 5-0, by the way. And Denver, who are 1-3 in a row now. Why are you counting them out? You lost to San Francisco when they were fully healthy. What else do you want him to do? Aaron Rodgers has been the main problem so far with the offense. Why are you throwing the coach under the bus? You can claim leadership, sure. But that's the easy argument. I get Saleh's record, when you look at it, is terrible. But look what he had to start with, and they've been building since. Listen, the Jets could have been the legitimate contenders and could have been in a better spot, and we would have known more about Robert Saleh if Rodgers made it past 4 plays last year. And I don't think we would be making this argument because we would know what Hackett could really do with Rodgers. In the end, it is, for me, frustrating on how the Jets handle this. I'm not surprised by Saleh's reaction, but it's a little annoying they're doing this now and they couldn't have waited like 3 more weeks. And because Saleh had the better hand over Buffalo, and Buffalo have lost back-to-back games. So that would have been the perfect game to see where the Jets are really at. Going in and playing Buffalo at home again on Monday Night Football again. It's a very weird situation. If you look at Saleh's career statistics as a head coach, 20-36.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's
why
bad.
it was fine.
How many one-score games did they lose? How many one-score games did they lose because of terrible play calling or quarterback play? Like 10?
Could you coach Zach Wilson to a winning record?
Yes.
Could you?
There's coaches that could have. He had an inexperienced, a rookie play caller and Nathaniel Hackett. What else do you want Zach Wilson to do? You're not going to develop if you have incompetent coaching as coordinators. He wasn't going to develop with LaFleur or Nathaniel Hackett. Anyone with 3 brain cells could have told you that. It's a weird spot for the Jets now. 2-3. We'll go into their game with Minnesota later on.
This is why bad teams stay bad with this instability.
He's 20 and he's had plenty of time to right that ship, and he didn't.
They were
and going into this season. Actually, no, they weren't hellbent. That Dave.
I mean,
you want to talk about hellbent on keeping a bad quarterback? I mean, we'll look at the other team in this town.
I mean, he looked good the other day.
We'll get into that, but when it comes to the Jets this season, you talk about the teams that they lost to. You talk about the Denver loss, it being unlucky. Dude, you don't just score 9 points by being unlucky.
In the pouring rain at MetLife Stadium
turf, 9 points. Dude,
against one of the more underrated defenses in the game.
The Jets,
60 yards though, too.
The Jets coming into this season, the standard was significantly higher.
We shouldn't have a standard.
You came into this season with one.
Yes, I
know.
When
you traded for Aaron Rodgers, the narrative surrounding the Jets and the ceiling that everybody thought they could reach. Everybody thought that they would be a contender and they would be in the mix for the Super Bowl. That is what they wanted to be.
You don't trade.
That is what they are trying to do. With this roster, they clearly think, and a lot of other people clearly think, the media all over them, odds makers all over them. Everybody was stoked on the Jets because of that roster. And when you lose games with that roster, ultimately, it falls on the coaching staff. And when you have that coaching staff that still stays there and they don't throw anyone to the wolves, guess what? They're going to fire the head coach. That's the bottom line.
And it's the easiest fix.
They claim that to be the easiest.
They do claim.
But also, when you fire a coach mid-season, there are a lot of things that were happening. Rodgers and Saleh clearly have a bad relationship, and it is evidently even worse than those shots on the sideline were leading on. And with the Jets, when they traded for Rodgers, everyone knew They relinquish control of that organization to him. And when Rodgers sees something that he doesn't like, they're going to make sure it gets out of there. Again, it's like LeBron. When you bring in a guy like that, a guy that controlling, a guy that polarizing, a guy that demanding, you are going to make changes on his whim. And I think when it boils down to it, I think that was the real motive. Rodgers went marching into Joe Douglas's office, or he probably has a main line to Woody Johnson. He probably shot a text to Woody Johnson, demanded an audience with him. He got it because he's the real head of that franchise. I mean, if it came between Rodgers and Saleh, they'd go with Rodgers' opinion 100 million times out of 100 million. And it was his call. It was absolutely Rodgers' call because he doesn't like what's happening. He doesn't like what he sees out of Saleh. And to his credit, I don't like what I see either. Granted, I'd like to see a little bit better out of Rodgers going forward because he's really not helping his case by playing at a lackluster level, throwing 3 picks in, I think that's multiple games. He's thrown 3 picks this year.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is averaging over an interception a game just from those 2 games alone. And, 40 years old, coming off a torn Achilles, maybe it's not the best idea to put your entire franchise into the hands of a guy who has vocally expressed some kind of questionable things. I'll leave it at that.
The final note I want to have on this whole situation, it just came out now that Saleh was not allowed to speak to any team personnel after he was escorted out of the building. So the players didn't know. He was not allowed to meet with the players or coaches after the firing. I hate that. I hate it. Why?
Maybe it shows.
Talk to your team about it.
Maybe it shows the type of pull that he had on those plays. He clearly didn't have that much of an impact.
I think that, or it's just something else. But we'll leave them at there.
Yeah, I mean,
because we have
a lot
more to get into, and we will start it off with the series over the weekend. The New York Mets making it to the NLDS for the first time in who knows how long. They went out since 2015. They came out on top in 3 games in a crazy series in Milwaukee, Luke.
I still can't believe they won Game 3 against Milwaukee.
No one can. No one can,
dude.
I felt like Connor Gillespie. The Connor Gillespie moment was replaying in my head from 2016 when Jake Bowers and Sal Frelick went back to back. I'm like, great. I've got those names are gonna have to live rent free in my mind.
I thought they were dead to rights.
I thought they were dead to rights too. They had no business winning that game. But then they finally get something going in the 9th inning. Lindor walks. Vientos strikes out. And then Nimmo gets the base hit to get runners on the corners with 1 out.
And up comes Pete Alonso. The bad guy. The one who everyone wants to see go.
The man who...
And he did it.
Someone who had an underwhelming season, who dropped a foul ball. Oh, that would have ended the inning in the 8th inning, I think. And the fans were laughing at him.
Oh, yeah.
If that was the way his tenure ended, that would have been so miserable.
It would have been fitting.
It would have been fitting.
But it is the greatest precursor because he just... What then transpired, he hit the biggest home run in terms of win probably added in the postseason since Albert Pujols took Village Deep and a home run in a postseason game. I thought for sure that ball was going to get caught at the wall.
Yeah, it was a line drive.
It was a line drive, and the Mets could not hit a home run to save their life in that series until when it mattered the absolute most. And it just cleared the wall at a Frelick's range. He ran out of space. I went ballistic. I couldn't believe it. That was easily the greatest moment I've seen as a Mets fan, without a doubt. Because none of the 2015 season, yes, was great.
Didn't have many moments like that.
It did not have a moment like that where their backs were literally against the wall, and to have a 3-run home run to get the lead. That just didn't happen. That never even happened where a team was losing in the 9th inning, got a 3-run home run to get the lead in a playoff game like that. That's actually never happened.
It's crazy, isn't it?
This Mets team.
I'm not sure if it's any more specifics, but it does not happen. It just, especially for the Mets.
How about the Mets? You know,
Dude, I gotta tell you, man, that they got some
Oh,
juice.
you were trying to jinx them.
They got some
Shut
juice.
up.
I am still trying to jinx them, but like, no, I genuinely believe this.
This whole week has been like someone's got to document this whole week.
I think this whole weekend's a documentary in
Mets
itself.
team, this Mets team, too. You on the last week, you could write a 30 for 30 on it. That last week alone, and they're in a dogfight with the Phillies. I think they win that series.
I
won
the first game,
I think they're going the distance. I
I
think
don't, no shot.
I'm
not
saying
a
right now.
chance.
I think they're winning.
Look at the
look at-
Padres.
Look at who's in the American League.
Look at the Padres.
we'll get to
Dude,
that in a second.
the Mets got some.
The Padres are flying.
Dude, the Mets have that devil magic to them. They
So
got
do the
something.
Padres.
I never
So do the
heard that
Padres.
You're
sentence.
telling me the Mets don't have devil magic right now?
They do.
I never thought I heard that sentence.
They
Dude,
do.
they have, but they do. Dude, watch their games.
I mean,
They're never out of it. They're
the-
cockroaches. They don't die. You can
mean-
throw everything that you have at that team, and they will. Even if they go down, they will go down kicking and screaming.
I
And
mean,
I believe
game two
if they
is a pig of
if
that.
they had another chance,
in game 2,
if they had another chance in game 2, they would have scored. They would have scored because they know how to show up when it matters. That team is the epitome of clutch. They are never out of it. They could be down 4 runs in the 8th inning, and I'd be like, yeah, wouldn't shock me if they put something together because they're a winning club. That is a winning team with winning players that do winning things. The evidence is there. In the last week, you have guys, different guys. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, and Mark Vientos alone have had 3 major home runs that have either tied the game or given them the lead in the 9th inning
this past
when
week.
they were down with their
Past week
backs against the wall.
alone, yeah.
That is a winning thing.
Oddly,
That is what winners do. I talk a lot. I stress a lot about what teams do when they are winners and when they are losers. The Mets right now have everything that a winning team has, and that not much is really stopping. Like, who in the American League is stopping them? I mean, I think they beat the Phillies. Going back to Citi Field with the crowd going, with Grimace and all that, with all the magic, the rally pumpkin, whatever you can think of. They got everything going. I think that series isn't going back to Philadelphia.
Well, we'll see about that.
No,
Because
I don't think that series is going back to Philly.
I chance.
Dude, nothing is stopping the Mets right now, dude.
It is
Well,
the
No,
Saints.
they got
well-
they got the stuff. They got the juice. They got the secret sauce.
listen,
They got the secret formula.
listen. What is stopping them is whenever they score first in the postseason, they've lost both games where they score first, and they've won every game where they trailed when they allowed the first run. So maybe he's just giving up the first score is what does it for them.
The interesting part is tonight they go against one of my favorite starting pitchers in the National League, Aaron Nola
Ooh.
Have you seen
and
his?
Sean
He
Manaea.
has not pitched since September.
I know.
Have
So
you seen
that's
his-
the
have you seen
worst.
his stats like on 6 days plus rest?
Isn't it like really terrible?
Yes, he has a batting average against of like over 400 and OPS over like 1200 against.
The only worry point I have, I think the series
Which
does
means
go
he's going
back.
to pitch an amazing game tonight.
Exactly. I think the series will go back to Philadelphia. I think the Phillies win the game tonight. Aaron Nola is going to put on a clinic. I've watched Aaron Nola for a very, very
With the
long
stats
time.
that Luke just gave. I mean, we don't know if we can verify
It's
those, but
Aaron
I
Nola
can
in the
verify them.
playoffs.
I can verify
Yes,
them right
I am
now.
going to back Aaron Nola for this.
What, you're not going to show Sean Manaea some love?
Sean Manaea. Okay.
he's been dealing.
Want me to show up some love to Sean Manaea? Sure.
Everyone
Sean
on the Mets
Manaea
has everything going.
has actually really good numbers against everyone on Philadelphia, not named probably Castellanos.
Do not throw strikes into Castellanos. Do not throw strikes
In the
him.
playoffs.
In the
Do not
Dude,
throw strikes to
He's
him. He's proven he will swing at garbage. And that's one of the reasons why they lost on Sunday. They threw him strikes for no reason.
It was a mislocated pitch and a pitcher's count. And there
okay,
you go.
we can verify
We can
the
verify.
stats.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a big sample size of like 4 games, but still 4 games is.
It's 4
something.
games.
But you know,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen very often. I wonder why it doesn't happen very
Yeah.
often.
4 games. You wonder why.
And maybe just don't do it. They don't do it very
Aaron
often 'cause
Nola is
they know.
putting on a clinic. This is the time they need Aaron Nola. And in recent seasons, we've seen Aaron Nola rise to the occasion.
Well, not last year.
Not last year, but like
LCS.
besides that, he is putting on a clinic. And I think he walks through the Mets lineup. I say he goes at least 5, and Phillies win 3-1 tonight. That's my pick.
I think the Mets. Well, you want to talk about teams who rise to the occasion in the playoffs? Yeah,
The Mets.
The Mets have risen to the occasion more than anybody. I think
Game 3 tonight is the most important game for the Mets. They have to win tonight for a lot of reasons. One, they're going to have all the momentum because they're playing their first game at Citi Field since Sunday. Like, it's in the last 16 days where they played the Phillies also, oddly enough.
Did they won?
They won.
I assume, right?
They won. Francisco Lindor has not been in front of City, has not played this game at Citi Field since like September 8th. And this whole past week has happened. They're going to get the biggest hero's welcome you could possibly imagine tonight or this evening at 5.
It's gonna be nuts
because of the past week that just happened and everything. Citi Field's going to be rocking tonight. I can guarantee you that.
Dude, that's the place to be tonight.
That's why they have to win tonight. Number 1. Number 2, they have to win because if they win, they force Philly's hand, and I would imagine they're gonna go to Zach Wheeler in Game 4 on short day's rest because it's a do or die game. I 100% think that's what they do.
Absolutely.
Do. And you have to force them to that corner. I don't want to go back to Philly, have them face Zach Wheeler in a Game 5. You can't. You tip the odds in your favor if you win tonight, Matt. You tip your odds massively if you win tonight.
They've already named the starter for Game 4.
The Phillies?
Yes, they have.
Who?
Both teams have listened. It's the left-handed maestro of Ranger Suarez.
I think it's going to change by the end of the night.
Currently listed as the starter for Game 4.
I definitely think it's going to change if they Mets win tonight.
Against the guy who pitched well in Game 3 last weekend. It's Jose Quintana.
Quality star Quintana.
Okay, let me say this before we go to the Yankees. I had my doubts about Jose Quintana.
He showed up.
I said a lot.
He showed up big.
I said a lot of bad things on my own show about Jose Quintana. I thought he was going to get lit up. By Milwaukee.
But you know what he did well? What he missed, he was not missing over the plate.
That's true.
He was not missing over the plate. He does not live in the zone. He makes you chase pitches or gets ground balls. And when he makes a mistake, it's not over the plate.
That's a very good point. I mean, how big that series is. There's so many other good series. The Padres and the Dodgers the fans throwing stuff on the field, which I think is absurd. You have the Royals and the Yankees. We'll talk about them in a minute. But what about Cleveland and Detroit? They are putting on
whoever wins that series is going to win the pennant, in my opinion.
That series,
Emmanuel Clausen gave up runs
to the Tigers.
Now, I think whoever wins that series is going to win the pennant, and we'll get to why in a bit when we talk about the Yankees.
I mean, the stories out of that series. Who would have said that 3 AL Central teams
would be holding the Yankees hostage right now?
And the Yankees would be the American League DS teams? No one did. But you would have expected the Astros, the Rangers, Seattle, Baltimore. All of them would be in the conversation. But no, that script's been sent to another continent because we have the Royals who have essentially proved themselves as being semi-competent. But they lost Game 1, but they won Game 2 last night.
We will get into
you have Cleveland who can't hit, and you have the Tigers who also can't hit until the 9th inning or something. You saw the end of the series with Houston, and you saw Game 2 yesterday, a couple days ago.
Clutch hits off of Josh Hader and Emmanuel Clausen.
That's ridiculous. That's absurd.
I mean, how? The Mets got a clutch hit off of Devin Williams too.
Devin Williams
hasn't even injured. Hasn't he been injured all season too? He's been injured a lot.
He only gave like 3 runs though this year, still in like 20 or 30 games appeared.
That's actually pretty good too. I mean, closers have been. I mean, and you want to talk about another closer who hasn't been great? Go back to the Mets with Edwin Diaz.
I will say, if Jose Budo actually got the 3 outs before it got to Schwarber in the 7th inning, if he gotten 3 outs before Schwarber kept the bat, Diaz would have had a clean inning to start off on.
That's true.
So maybe things turn out a bit differently, but they didn't, and that's what happened. I can't say that for sure, but I feel like we would have had a better chance if Diaz had a clean inning to work with instead of having to come in the 7th.
You talk about the Yankees, who came off that disappointing loss last night. What's your assessment of the series so far with the Royals?
What's your account?
Well, you ask me.
We've been waiting for this for about.
Okay.
When did we talk about this last night in the group chat?
Like in the third inning.
So we've been waiting for this for like 15 hours now.
Okay,
We're about to
first
get
of
best
all,
personality right
okay,
here.
first
Tell me
and
how you are.
foremost, this is a franchise and an organization and a roster of close to nothing but losers.
Damn.
All they have done
They are
is
the first
lost.
seed in the AL.
The first seed in the American League and have won 27
yeah.
titles. Yet they're a
Well, yeah,
franchise
no,
of losers.
No, okay,
Yeah, real
since
franchise of losers
2009.
right there.
Since 2009, they have done nothing but disappoint the fans. They have done nothing but disappoint the media. They have done nothing but disappoint everybody, seemingly except for themselves. They're proud of this. They will, after this season ends in Kansas City, because I don't see them winning.
It's one game.
I don't see them winning.
lost
Dude,
in
I don't
one
care.
game.
I don't care. Dude, the only reason they are not down 2-0 right now is because the Royals' third base coach sent Salvador Perez around third, who cannot run.
That was so dumb.
Who
That was
cannot
pretty
run.
dumb.
And because the Royals bullpen couldn't throw strikes in game one. That is the only reason that the Yankees are not on the brink of elimination right now.
But you know, the Yankees
With a dap. The offense, they are 3 for 19 with runners in scoring position. That is the mark of a losing team. You want to talk? I was talking about stuff, the mark of a winning team. Stuff that the Mets do. Big Brother in Queens, what they do. That is not what the Yankees have done.
I gotta stop you.
The
there.
Mets,
I gotta stop you there.
The Mets have had Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos, and who is the
Lindor.
other guy? And Francisco Lindor.
And Brandon
have had-
Nimmo.
And Brandon Nimmo, 5 guys on the Mets this year have had more clutch moments than Aaron Judge has had in his entire postseason career. If you ask me, Judge should be stripped of the captaincy. He has no right to be remembered among the likes of revered greats like Derek Jeter, Don Mattingly, Thurman Munson, Lou Gehrig,
I mean, Aaron Judge.
Yogi Berra. He should not be remembered. Judge has the highest postseason strikeout rate of all time. He is a loser. He is sad. He is pathetic. And if you ask me, I would trade Aaron Judge for Mark Vientos straight up right now. You can take him. You can take him. I want nothing to do with him anymore. I am taking him off my list of favorite players. I loathe Aaron Judge. I loathe him. All he has done is lose. He stat pads in the regular season, and now I get why Yankee fans hated A-Rod back in the day, because sure, he put up great numbers in the regular season. You look at the stats, he looks great. How can anybody hate this guy? You watch him in October. You watch him fall apart. You watch him abandon everything that made him such a great player to begin with in the regular season. You watch him just fall apart when everything matters most because he is a low leverage player. The narrative is right. He is Mr. Low Leverage because he cannot perform when it matters in October. The stats say it. He is batting near, and by the time the series is over, he will be batting below the Mendoza line. He has not done anything meaningful or impactful in the playoffs since 2019. And his OPS, his career playoff OPS, has been at a steady and rapid decline since 2018 in Game 2 of the ALDS, where he had the gall to play New York on that boombox in Fenway Park in front of the Boston clubhouse, because this Yankee team, you know, they don't know how to respond to trash talk, but other teams do. Jazz Chisholm said in the postgame he guarantees they're going to win that series. That's going to come back to bite him. That's going to come back to bite him because nobody on this team can back up anything that they said. Everything that has been proven. This team has proven time and time again that they will never, ever in the history of for the rest of mankind until Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone are scrubbed from this organization. They will never win a thing again. Never.
It's one game.
It goes so much deeper than one game. It is not just one game. You do not get this type of mad. You do not get this angry off of just one game. This is years of futility in October, years of not being able to get a big hit, years of not showing up when it matters. I sound like a broken record when I say this. I have said this every single year. They never, ever show up outside of guys like maybe Gleyber Torres. Maybe. And Juan Soto, you know, he's done a solid job. But who's to say that Soto's not going to jump to a winning organization like the Mets in the offseason?
Wait a second.
The Mets are a team of winners. I'm jealous of you. I'm jealous. I could only dream of my team doing what your team has done. A crumb of it. A crumb of it. I'm jealous of you.
We have made the postseason twice in the last 9
and
years.
you've done more. You've shown more.
How many games we won?
You've shown more. More fight, more resilience, more ability to hit in the clutch, more ability to get the big hit than the Yankees have done in this era of failure.
You've won like
failure.
triple.
This era has been defined. I'm not talking about history. Sure, you want to go back to pre-integration. We can talk about the Yankees' success all we want. But in this era, in the Judge Boone loser participation trophy post-game Dairy Queen era of Yankee baseball, it has been defined and will continue to be defined and will be remembered in the future as an era of failure.
You talk about, Luke, the Yankees for you, they're coming off that loss to the Royals last night.
Dallas Cowboys of baseball.
Okay, come on.
Listen,
You've made
the
it.
Cowboys have actually
At least
done
you
nothing.
made it to a title game
Yeah,
recently.
The Yankees have done.
You should be
nothing.
grateful for making it
the
the
Yankees-
ALCS.
Grateful. I should be grateful. My team has done nothing in the playoffs. They're the laughing stock of the sport, and I should be grateful.
Let me back up.
Yes.
Hold on. Hit the button. Not wrong button. Hit the other one.
Which one?
The scrub back.
No,
Because
That's a long.
it is. You guys have made the playoffs for how many
And
times?
what have we done?
Hold on.
What have we done?
Let me
What
get
have
through
we
with this.
done?
Let me get through with this. You guys should be grateful because the Mets have done nothing in the last 10 years. You should be grateful. Since we made that World Series run in 2015,
We have not
More
made the.
recently than the Yankees.
we made
More
it.
recent.
No, but
more recent than the
understand
Yankees.
this. You guys have had the core, the talent. Yes, you haven't been able to get the results,
They
but
haven't-
understand
they've
this.
Done nothing. They've done nothing.
They have the.
They're the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The Maple
They
Leafs
make
have
it
not-
past the first
Aaron
round.
Judge
They
is-
make it past the first round.
Aaron Judge is Austin Matthews.
They're the Boston Bruins at this rate, but they've won a cup recently too, so I can't even use that
Well,
argument.
you know, it was only 2 years after.
Yeah,
the
They're
Yankees
Washington.
won.
They're the
And you laugh
freaking
at the-
Capitals at this rate. They are the Washington Capitals if we're using that reference.
The Capitals won the Stanley Cup in 2018. The Capitals have more.
Yeah,
recent
at
playoff
least
success
no.
than the
At
Yankees.
least Washington. At least
They have
the
not
Yankees
won a.
made it
They have
past
not
the
won a
second
series since
round.
then. They have not won a playoff
I-
series since then.
Yeah, they've won
There's
a
the
cup.
narrative.
They
That's
have
why I'm
won-
going to go with
They
this.
have won a Stanley Cup.
And they've been
in
first round
2010s.
exits like every
Yeah,
year since
you know,
then.
yeah, I'd take a Stanley Cup followed by a
Jesus.
few years of first round exits. With the Yankees, it has been this entire era. When all is said and done, it will be defined by failing to come through when it matters most. And with the Yankees, you talk about the standard. The standard is different. With the Yankees, everything is made and broken in October because you talk about making the playoffs. That is the absolute bare
gotta make
minimum.
the
So where was that
to
last
all-
year then?
to
Where was
end
that last year
all
then?
Bare minimums.
You've
Yeah,
had-
it was last year was a failure too. Last year was a major failure. But if you ask me, if you don't win the World Series, it's the same result.
And, you know,
No.
you
in
gotta make the
Yankee
playoffs
land-
first
in
to
Yankee
get
land,
there.
In Yankee land, it is the same result if they don't win the World Series.
Well, what do you?
And they have allowed the same people who have mangled this golden opportunity with who, at least in the regular season, is the best player in the sport. Even though I want him gone, but in the regular season, the best player in the sport. You have guys, they don't screen players for mental fortitude.
Well,
They are mentally frail. They're frail. They don't know how to perform in October. This is years of this, not being able to get the big hit. Are we watching the same games?
Yes.
Yeah.
You are.
We are watching. Yeah,
We are
so you
watching the
understand
same
what I
game.
mean.
But
And-
understand the difference. Aaron Judge. Okay, let me get this off.
He sucks in October.
Oh, mute him real quick. I have to say this. Aaron Judge is the most talented player you've had this decade. In the 2020s,
Yeah.
he has been your best player. The best player for the Mets has only shown up for one season. Singular season. And that's the main reason the Mets made the playoffs was Francisco Lindor.
I mean, I thought he was pretty good the last couple of seasons,
But he's been underperforming a little bit because of the contract.
I mean, he had a 30-30 season last
There
year.
you go.
That's pretty good.
But understand this. Your squad has been destroyed by one person, not by a whole roster for the last 5 years. Your squad has been destroyed by an incompetent manager, not a roster. Your squad hasn't had one of the worst bullpens I've ever seen in my lifetime in 2019. Your squad didn't have the extreme underperformance in 2020. Your squad has had an owner that is willing to spend money since 2009. Do you know what the Wilpon era was like in the back end of the Wilpon era when we bought no players?
But
in the end of the
20.
20. Let me finish this point, because you guys are ungrateful that you guys had the chance to even buy a player like Garrett Cole,
to even
or
make
re-sign an Aaron Judge, or even have a chance to re-sign Juan Soto. Mets fans 5 years ago couldn't dream of something
October
like that.
baseball.
It's not 5 years
October
ago.
baseball,
You get
or a playoff run.
It's not 5 years ago. It's 2024. And in
Yes, it's
2024, we live in a world where the Mets have shown more life in the playoffs than the Yankees have in the last.
We've played 4 or 5 more games than
yeah,
them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that just adds to my point. They've shown
No,
more
it
fight.
doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Because we didn't win a division.
Francisco Lindor has shown more fight than Aaron Judge. Pete Alonso has shown more
He's
fight than
played
Aaron
2
Judge.
games.
Mark Vientos has shown more fight than Aaron Judge. Yeah, in only 2 games, he's had more big moments.
Yeah, 2 games.
And Aaron Judge has not stepped up in the clutch once in October since like his rookie year, I think.
Maybe you guys should stop putting World Series expectations and actually be not expect to win it all every year.
Well, first of all, you got to make the playoffs to win the World Series. You're completing one of those already.
You expected to wait. Hold on. I gotta understand this. You expected to win the World Series with that bullpen?
I didn't expect to win the World Series.
Then why are you putting World Series expectations
That's
then?
the one. It's not the
That makes
expectation.
no
It's
sense.
the goal. It's the goal.
I'm confused.
It's the goal. The goal is to win a World Series.
I mean,
That's the goal.
And
With
you
the Yankees,
expect
that's
that with the
goal.
bullpen you have?
The bullpen has been really good.
The
bullpen.
It's the definition
The bullpen has been the
of-
least. The bullpen has been the least of our problems in this series so far.
Listen, I gotta admit though.
The offense, every single year, everyone talks about the Yankee pitching being a potential weakness, but it's always their offense because they go ghost every single year.
You want to talk about someone who's
also-
gone ghost recently?
Also, as far as I'm concerned, might as well lose 100 games a year if we're not going to do anything in the playoffs, because at least I don't have to deal with the stress of watching the playoff games and basing my schedule around this team.
Why do you do that?
Around these, because I'm an idiot. Because I'm insane.
You cheer for the Yankees.
Because there is some.
I cheer for the Mets. You cheer for the Yankees.
Because
we're
not
the same. We're not the same.
There is some small speck in my body that believes that they can. There's some small speck, a speck that I have been trying to get rid of for years that tells me that they can do it.
But because the Yankees are a good team,
They're
and have consistently been good teams.
All this team has done in years is proved me right. And no matter how often you call me spoiled, no matter how often you say I'm ungrateful, you enjoy your parade in a bit. You enjoy your parade.
I gotta
Don't
make
act
this.
shocked. Enjoy your parade.
I gotta make this comment right now.
Enjoy your parade. Enjoy your clutch moments. Enjoy feeling like your team is not out of it because you're down 3 runs in the 5th inning.
I gotta make this comment before we head over to the boys in blue and the New York Giants. Yankees fans have just treated it like they expect to win the World Series every year. That's why the Mets fans, and myself included in this, do not like Yankees fans very much.
Yes.
Because you guys expect to be there. The Major League Baseball playoffs are a privilege.
To be it.
Ask Detroit and freaking Kansas City. Us and who else would you throw in that conversation?
Mariners.
The Mariners.
Over the last 20 years.
The Mariners.
They've been once.
Yes.
Luke, you can relate.
No,
to
let me
here.
finish this.
You're a Ranger fan. The playoffs are a given for you. The goal lies in June in the Stanley Cup. Granted, and you haven't gotten there, so that makes you mad.
It does, but like the Rangers had one of the most thrilling scenes I've ever seen out of them. And like,
Okay, well,
That's a privilege.
Okay, well, you enjoy your lack of championships. I like to keep my goals higher.
But you got.
Personally.
But make
I
no
like- I
mistake.
like
Hold
to
on.
keep
Let me
my
finish this. We're going to the Giants right after this. Make no mistake. It's a privilege to make the MLE playoffs. You wonder why the other teams have been performing. Your Detroits, your Kansas Cities, and the New York Mets. Because this is the first time they've really been in this position in a very,
long time.
very, very long time. Almost a decade for some, and over a decade for others. This is a privilege
to be in.
for Kansas City, Detroit, and the Mets, and they're taking advantage of it. You said trade Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is
gonna
better.
win MVP.
He's going to win American League MVP. You're not trading an American League MVP.
That doesn't.
That's
win you a World
outrageous.
Series in October.
That's outrageous.
Dude, Michael Garcia last night had 4 hits,
4 singles that didn't
guarantee
lead to anything.
That is more than Judge is going to do in this entire.
Oh, and you want to
postseason.
talk about people who
That
haven't
is
been
more Judge.
performing? Where's Bobby Witt been this whole series?
Yeah.
Where's Bobby Witt been?
Witt?
I think he's on a plane back to
Okay,
Kansas
he-
City,
he
but
made
that
it-
was on
I mean,
freaking
yeah, I mean,
over the
yeah.
weekend.
I think objectively they are.
But he got a big hit in
He's
game 1
0
against.
for 9.
He got big hits against Baltimore.
He's 0 for
In
9
but in this
in
series,
the
he's 0 for-
series against the Yankees. How is that possible when you're
but
comparing Aaron
all
Judge and
of
not
their
being in the big
other-
moments? Where's Bobby Witt been this whole series?
He's made
Where?
a few defensive plays.
Is he in Kansas City? Is he
I
in
have faith that-
Cancun?
Well, here's the
Is
thing.
he in
He's in his
South
first
Korea?
year
Where
in
is
the
he?
He's in his first year in the playoffs. Judge has a sizable sample size of ghosting in October.
But you bring it, you're not going to be expectations. Bobby Witt's expectation was to carry this team in the playoffs. Where the hell's he been?
His other team, his teammates are stepping up and getting the hits, driving runners home. Something that the Yankees, apparently it's not in their vocabulary. No matter what you say, I'm not going to have a positive outlook on this team.
You don't say
It's
players are performing.
Dude,
You look at
I know,
like
I know.
Soto and
I have a PhD.
Chisholm and Verdugo in the playoffs. You're saying they're not performing?
Soto had 3 hits in game 1.
Sure.
Soto had 3 hits in game 1, and Verdugo had the go-ahead RBI single in
Someone who
in game 1.
That's more clutch performances than freaking Bobby Witt this whole series. So why are you complaining when you still have pieces that can perform as well? Not just a Michael Garcia or Salvador Perez on the other side. You have pieces that can perform.
They haven't.
The Yankees
They
are
haven't.
still in it.
They haven't.
They're not out of it
It's
yet.
one game. It's one game.
Luke, I will bet you $50. I will give you $50 if
Clip
the Yankees
this.
advance to the ALCS.
Clip
I
this.
will personally hand you $50 cash on this station by the next time.
We are
next week.
opening that
Okay,
video with
like-
this, by the way.
Okay.
Yes. Wait a minute. That's free money.
Okay.
That's free money.
The series will be over. The Royals will be advancing to the ALCS by the time we get on the air next week. If the Yankees advance, I will personally hand you $50 cash. There is no risk in it for you. If the Royals win, you don't have to give me money. This isn't a set bet.
Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani. All right, Shohei Ohtani.
That
There
was
is-
good. That
There
was
is
good. I'll give you
literally
that.
no risk in it for you. I am on air.
That's
making
why I
this
said free.
proposition to you.
That's why I said free
I
money.
will personally give
Free
you
money.
I will
Yeah.
personally give you $50.
All right.
You better take that one.
I
is
am.
how certain,
Better freaking
that is
take
how
that
certain
one.
I am. That's how certain I am that the Yankees are going to do what they have done in October every single year.
I guess we
That I have been paying attention to this team, that I have been cognizant about sports, and they will fail.
I think we should end this segment with the handshake for this bet. I think that's how we
Should
end
not.
this segment. As we
Thanks
head
for
now
money.
to the boys in blue. That's the New York Giants,
I-
guys, who somehow came away with a win at Seattle,
I
leading with an
No,
incredible.
I'm happy with that. Okay, I can turn my mic sound up a little bit.
You can.
Yeah.
You earn the privilege to do this.
I'm out of the doghouse now. Okay.
I didn't watch a single second of the Sunday game because the Mets were also playing.
Yeah. So like, but I guess I'll sort of take the lead here. I have no real complaints. This is rare for me. I can find the glass half empty in anything in sports. That I can't really find much.
But
I mean,
it's glass half full this time.
at like kind of like the final drive, almost blowing it in 2 minutes. That sucked, but
special.
like that sucked. But They were the better team for that entire game against a pretty solid Seattle team as well, might I add. Coming in at 3-1, the Giants came in and dominated that game.
Tracy is running back.
No,
now.
This thanks in great part, and I can finally say this: that offensive line. I am loving that offensive line so much. Dude, Carmine Brasillo, Jermaine Illuminor. I mean, that is dogs. All of them. All of them dogs. And they're like, when was the last time you seen a Giant running back get holes like that on a consistent basis?
Never.
The playoff year for
Like, there was
Saquon,
a
maybe?
massive.
Maybe, yeah.
That was a terrible offensive line too. But
Still able to get done.
But Tyrone Tracy running for over 100 yards. And
I think he's running back 1 now.
I mean, at least split the carries between him and Singletary.
Yeah.
I think Tracy should get more looks, especially since he didn't fumble. I mean, Eric Gray at the one. There's kind of a little controversy whether he broke the plane or not. But again, if the Giants lost that game, it wouldn't have been because of officiating. And this defense, especially that defensive line, is going to wreak havoc going forward. Dexter Lawrence is I believe, tied for second in the league in sacks.
Dog.
As a nose tackle.
He's a dog.
I am going to formally on this show today at 1:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Tuesday, the 8th of October, 2024, I am launching the Dexter Lawrence for Defensive Player of the Year campaign. I'm saying it.
I can get behind that.
I'm saying it.
I can't.
What?
Who?
I'm giving it to TJ Watt currently. I have TJ Watt.
Well,
I have Dexter
it's
Lawrence
AFC.
in my top 3.
Well, that's AFC.
Is it just? I thought it was just defensive player of the year.
I think it's just defensive player of the year. It's defensive player of the year.
TJ Watt. And I
it's
don't
December
think
by
at the end of the
AFC.
year it would be close. I think Dexter Lawrence can be in the conversation, sure. But what
That's what
TJ Watt is doing?
I'm putting him in the conversation.
Come on.
I'm putting him in the conversation. As of right now, I think Dexter Lawrence should be very deep in the conversation for defense. But he is, when he is on the field, Dexter Lawrence is, we haven't seen stuff like that since prime Aaron Donald.
Oh, I'll tell you where we've seen that recently. Freaking Aiden Hutchinson. How about him in Detroit? Or what TJ Watt's doing in Pittsburgh? There's your answer.
That's
the best
I'm
defensive
talking about
player.
from a defensive tackle.
Quinnen Williams, I don't know.
Quinnen Williams
The
does
start
not.
he had to 2 years.
Quinnen Williams doesn't breathe the same air as Dexter Lawrence.
What?
I'm just saying.
2 years ago he did. He was totally better than
2
Dexter
years ago,
Lawrence.
and then Dexter Lawrence shot up like crazy.
You're not rotating defensive tackles every 5 seconds.
Remember,
so
he's
that's
still
a
27.
stupid
I mean,
argument.
the Giants, they do rotate
They
defensive
do
tackles.
not. I watched
do.
that game.
They
They
do.
don't rotate anyone.
I mean, you can't really rotate Dexter Lawrence.
You can't take him off the field.
You can't take him off the field because he is a game wrecker.
Dexter Lawrence, by the way, has 9th in odds for DPOI currently. 9th.
Yeah, well, I'd shoot him up because he's on pace for over 20 sacks.
Do we want to know who's ahead of this man?
He is on pace for over 20 sacks as a nose tackle.
Leading the odds currently is Aiden Hutchinson, who's been off to a flying start in Detroit.
I mean, yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
Then
Aiden
it's-
Hutchinson.
There is a nose tackle here ahead of Dexter Lawrence.
Okay, then that's
Chris Jones.
That's moronic. I know. I like Chris Jones.
I back that actually.
I think he's great, but what Dexter Lawrence has done this year is he's not doing things
TJ
that
Watt.
other nose tackles in this league are coming close to doing.
TJ Watt is 2nd. Chris Jones is 3rd. Nick Bosa, Pat Surtain Jr., Max Crosby, Fred Warner, Myles Garrett, Dexter Lawrence. And by the way, Micah Parsons is there, but he's played like 2 games. He's been like hurt for a while. Will Anderson is a player I think I can really shoot up himself as the season goes on. He's looked really good for the Texans.
We can have this conversation whenever, but let it be known, Dexter Lawrence is the most impactful player for the Giants on defense.
Oh, he 100% is.
Like, he's the most impactful
We can
player
all
for
agree on
them.
that one.
Period.
Yes.
Yes, neighbors, but like no.
No.
No,
I think
it
he's the most
is
impactful.
Dexter. As of
Dexter
right now,
Lawrence.
as of right now, the most impactful player on the Giants is Dexter Lawrence. And
Yes.
it's not really.
Well,
too
yes.
close.
You know who had a pretty decent game, at least based on the stat line.
Darius Slayton.
I mean, I didn't see that, but it's like Daniel Jones had a pretty solid day. Yet
Dan Jones wasn't terrible.
I will give
He had
him
2
his credit.
touchdowns.
He did. He
And
actually was not. He was passable.
He was serviceable.
He was very passable.
Which,
Was
I mean,
he
you want more.
great? Sure.
But he
He looked really
But he
good.
has
too.
to keep the level. He has to keep the level if you want to say he's passable.
If that is the Daniel Jones that we're seeing for the rest of the year,
The Giants can win games.
yeah, the Giants can win games if that's the Daniel Jones that we get for the rest of the year, especially with neighbors.
He hasn't been outright as bad as week 1.
He's been. I mean, he lost them that
it's-
game against Dallas.
Yeah,
he did.
he did. But I mean, I will take that game over what happened against Minnesota in week 1.
Also, Minnesota again. It's like the purple people eaters.
They're back. They're 5-0. Crazy.
I mean, there was also another time where they started 5-0 and they missed the playoffs.
That is also true.
2016. I remember this.
Yeah.
If they also beat us, then that's stretch
Yeah,
too.
yeah, they blew us out. That was the year we made the playoffs. That was the Landon Collins decoy
Oh yeah.
agenda.
You guys got an interesting one with the Bengals this weekend. To finish the show, how confident are you against the
That's like
Bengals?
sputtering more than like any other team in the NFL right now. So
Yeah,
I kinda like our
okay, you
chances.
know what? Because I'm feeling confident going into this game, the Giants are going to get blown out. That's how it goes.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I did my predictions for next week.
Every time there comes at least one point in the season where the Giants are coming off a nice win and they have an opportunity to see some momentum, and you go in a little hyped, and then they fall apart. And I think that's the game. Although if the Giants win on Sunday against Cincinnati and even themselves up at 3-3, I think we could be in for a very interesting football season.
Giants play on Sunday night, but that will be all for us here on the Ball Knowers podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to the channel. And don't forget, coming up right after us, it's the 5-hole coming up right after us, just minutes away. Don't go anywhere. But for Cam and Luke, I'm Robbie Basil saying so long. We'll see you guys next
I'll
time.
have my $50 ready. Have my $50 ready, Cameron.